Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Light Movement. So this podcast is all about being vulnerable. So the title of the podcast is Exposure Equals Freedom. So in this podcast, we have a special guest, Bree Bartz, and she is going to be talking with Ellie and I about this. And so Ellie found out something very interesting the other day. Ellie, why don't you share with the audience?
Well, we found out that John, unknown, he didn't know, unknown to him, he found out that he had a daughter. So Bree did 23andMe and realized that she is that John Milan is her dad. So I have a daughter who's also an artist. April Fools! Okay, that was weird.
that was probably bad. Not the best April Fool. It was short notice.
Yeah, we were gonna let it play out a little bit longer, but we all know how Ellie
you know
is.
me, I can't keep a real secret.
Okay, so a real introduction to Bree is a fantastic artist. She has experience live painting, and she took the mastery program, 2 years ago now? 3 years ago?
2 years. 2.5.
Or graduated, yeah.
Graduated.
And she lives in Arizona, and is it Queen Creek? No, Queen Creek.
We just moved, to a 2-acre property over there.
Yeah, that's right. And the reason why you guys are seeing, by the way, all the equipment and stuff here is because we're trying to be extra vulnerable in this episode with you guys, just like the topic suggests. So this is all the equipment, just so you guys know, that we use when we have... actually, can we get one of the cameras just to sort of show some of the various different equipment pieces? So I'm going to cut to that camera now. So we have this piece right here, which controls all the different camera angles. We have this, which is the audio, and it feeds the different XLR cables from the microphones into here, which goes into here, and this connects to the computer. We have a monitor right here, so I can see.
So that's how it works.
Yeah, we have a monitor right here, so I can see all the different camera angles and cut to them before, make sure that the camera angles are good before we cut to them. Usually we have someone else helping us with, doing the controller and stuff, but we thought that this would be the perfect opportunity to show you guys how it works behind the scenes and be vulnerable with you about the process. So maybe this will inspire some of you guys to start your own podcast. Who knows? Okay, so last week we talked about crap. I'm blanking right now. What did we talk about last week? Oh shoot!
We talked about decorative art and...
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Fine art market versus decorative art market. Yeah. And in the beginning of last week's episode, we promised that we're going to start out every single episode with a right brain exercise, and so that's what we're going to do this week. So Ellie, why don't you describe what the right brain exercise is this week?
Okay, so what's going to happen is Bree and I are going to do this together, and Jake will keep, I guess, the time. So we'll probably do this just for a couple minutes. And we are going to ask ourselves an open-ended question with our right hand. What's your favorite pizza? Almost like you're interviewing yourself. And then you're going to answer it with your left hand. And so Bree and I are going to come up with our own questions on the spot, whatever your right brain can come up with. Nothing's rehearsed. We're just coming up with something. And then we are going to come up with the answers. So all of this is very spontaneous. And then we will be sharing our answers. So Well, we'll see how far it goes.
Maybe that'll last.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes they last forever. You know what I mean? Like your phone will be like on 10% for like the whole day. So
we've done a whole 4-hour session with one bar on there before, so I was like, it'll probably be fine. But for those of you on YouTube, I apologize. The batteries on the Zoom recorder, the microphone thingy that I showed you guys before, went out, and so that's why you couldn't hear us for a minute. But we got new batteries; they're all fresh. I was getting a phone call just now. We are going to start the 2-minute timer very quickly. So just to recap real quick, they're going to be asking themselves questions with their right hand and answering themselves with their left hand. So it's quite interesting. And I decided in the moment just now that I'm going to be beatboxing and participating in the right brain exercise through auditory right brain exercise. So we're going to start.
Are you serious?
how many questions are we trying to do here?
Just as many as you can in 2 minutes.
First person to 10
I'm gonna do.
wins.
Yeah, I'm gonna do way more than Ellie. So.
Yeah. Okay. Are you guys ready?
Yep.
Yes.
So you got 2 minutes, or as soon as you get to 10 questions.
10 questions and answer.
So
Right.
you get to 10, you get to
So I have
stop
to
here and be
switch hands.
beatbox, okay? So to all the audience members, okay, cool. All the audience members, I apologize if the beatboxing sucks. So
It's gonna be great.
okay, ready, set, go.
Oh, I need my glasses. You really gonna do that for 2 minutes?
Oh yeah. Oh gosh.
One minute left. 1 minute left.
I cannot write.
Oh my gosh, I just took a look down. All right, I tried to beatbox the whole time. I'm sorry if I'm getting you guys out of your right brains.
I just wrote favorite twice.
Okay, in the comments right below, either a thumbs up for the beatboxing or a thumbs down. Be
Thumbs
real
down.
with us.
Thumbs down.
Ellie doesn't
Good
like
effort.
the beatboxing,
Good effort.
guys. But,
Good effort. You know, it reminds me of my brother and him making annoying noises when I was a kid.
Oh, that's bad.
Okay. Somebody said, great, bro. Nice tone. Excellent. Oh, that's time's up. Wow, you guys didn't even get close to 10.
No.
Jeez. Okay, so Bree, how many did you get?
I got 3.
Okay, can we?
I got
can we,
4.
And you got, oh.
Hey, you
Oh, but
passed the
cheated.
time.
I
She
cheated.
cheated. I don't know. Do you guys think she should get disqualified? I mean, let us know.
It's
So,
not a competition, Jake.
We tied.
everything's a competition. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, so Bree, read your questions and then read your answers.
Okay. So I have, what is your favorite season? And I put fall. And then I said, what is your favorite food? I put sushi. And what is your favorite drink? And I put pomegranate juice.
Pomegranate juice is very delicious. So.
I wanted to put wine, but
I actually watered down my
Okay,
pomegranate
so
juice. Though.
on the last one, it's probably not the truth, right?
probably not, because I wanted
Yeah.
to put wine.
Yeah.
And I didn't.
Okay, so I'll explain in a minute. Okay, so then my questions are, what is something you want to buy online? And I put sparkly makeup. And then it says, what is the best dessert? And I said, cherries on ice cream. And then it says, where is, and you guys that know me, you'll see how strange this is. Where is your favorite place? And I put on the beach. That's pretty normal.
Whoa, that's weird.
Yeah, it's so weird. And then it says, what do you wish your hair looked like? And I wrote curls. So anyway, the point of this is if you do this a lot and you go back and forth and you ask yourself a a right-handed question, and you answer it with your left hand, what you'll find is that your right hand is sort of like the adult in the conversation and very logical and will be pretty truthful. And your left hand will answer very strangely. You'll find, after 3 questions, the only one that came out strange was pomegranate juice. And the more open-ended the question is and the more you talk with your left hand, the voice is very different. So for me, only one of them was true. And you'll find that you'll answer them in non-truthful ways. It's like your left hand, your right brain it's not like your right brain lies, but your right brain is really creative and impulsive and answers very like strange things. Answers maybe more visual.
Yeah.
So like, for anybody that knows me, first of all, I don't wear makeup hardly ever. And secondly, if I was going to buy something online right now today, it would not be sparkly makeup. I don't even know where that came from.
I would buy sparkly makeup though.
And
maybe you looked at Brie and you saw sparkly makeup on her eyelids, and then,
maybe
I don't know.
I don't know where that came. It was I just wrote the first thing that came to my head, and then cherries on ice cream. I know that's not even a real dessert, and
No,
I don't.
Well, they have
it?
like cherry Garcia ice cream. It's actually really delicious.
But I mean, like I just ate cheesecake. I just ate cheesecake yesterday. I like cheesecake, and I love chocolate. So what would be logical is if I answered something having to do with chocolate or cheesecake ice cream. Yeah. Right? On the beach, that was pretty normal. That's probably my favorite place. And then the curls, I mean, it just sounds like a child's answer. What do you wish your hair looked like? Curls, you know.
And did your handwriting get worse? Because mine doesn't actually look too bad. And then the bottom, my pomegranate juice
mine is so bad.
I mean,
let's get a close up of that.
It doesn't even say pomegranate juice.
My left-handed handwriting is terrible. So is my right-handed.
But but mine aren't too bad.
You're left-handed?
But no, look at the pomegranate juice.
Yeah.
Pomegranate juice is not, I don't know.
My left hand looks worse than my right hand looks worse than your left hand.
Wait, can you hold it back up for a second?
Yes.
Ellie. Just because they saw Breeze, so there we go. Oh, it's beautiful.
So this is a really great exercise to engage your right brain, and you can learn interesting things about yourself as well. And it's great to do longer than 2 minutes, like if you did it for like 10 minutes, it'll get weirder and weirder. Like I've done this and I'm like, who is this person? Who is this person? That's not me. And it's very strange what comes out.
I wonder if like Freud or Jung knew about this at all. If they did, they would be like, whoa, like, why didn't I know about that?
Well, and it's really interesting when you have a conversation that goes back and forth, and you will see 2 very distinct personalities between your right hand and your left hand. Yeah. And so that's what's really interesting about it. So you guys could try that at home and
definitely
see what's what.
Okay, well, we should probably get started on the topic, because that's why everybody's here watching us right now. So, so in this episode, like I said before, we're going to be talking about vulnerability. And so what is if you guys just have a short story or something of a recent time when you guys really felt like you just had to be vulnerable. Do you want to go first, Bree?
I know. I was thinking Ellie was going to. Honestly, actually, just the other day when I just got here just a couple days ago. And it's one of those things where if something like sad or traumatic happens, and I know that we've all just had a crazy year that was unexpected, but I think it's almost hard sometimes to open up to your peers or other people that you even might look up to. I mean, Ellie, you're obviously an amazing mentor and just super awesome, but being able to just open up about that story and just have that vulnerability, you have to feel safe in that. And it was funny when we decided to look to do this podcast, I looked up the root word of vulnerable, and it comes from the Latin one is wound. And so I thought that was really interesting. Yeah. And I was just like, wow, like, so basically every single time that you are vulnerable and you're trying, it's because you've had all of these maybe wounds before, and like that could be maybe why we're so hesitant to be vulnerable, and just to be able to like say, not think about what we're saying and just actually say what we're feeling, and instead of thinking about it too much. So yeah, I don't know if I really said about what I said. The other day,
but you shared a story of a personal story of something that hurt you, with your grandpa, and it was vulnerable. Yeah.
Definitely.
I felt vulnerable recently when we filmed Sunday for Art Club.
Oh yeah, the live painting portal.
And we did the live painting portal because last minute, we decided to do something, like I decided to start a brand new painting. And so to start a brand new painting on a white canvas, you just have the white canvas glaring at you, and to basically off the cuff live in front of others to paint. And there was times where I thought my painting was super ugly and I wasn't getting, some of the proportions correct. And so to make those mistakes in front of others, especially when you're supposed to be the one that knows stuff, right?
Yeah.
felt vulnerable. And, I don't know. I think there's a lot of times I feel, but that's the most recent I can think of.
Interesting. I felt very vulnerable coming down here to this podcast. Just for context for everyone, we have a film studio up the hill on the property, and right before the podcast, internet went out. And so we have an awesome, beautiful human being here named Josh Lyon, who helped me in the last 20 minutes bring all the equipment down and set it all up. So that was fantastic. But I guess I wasn't really vulnerable in front of other people. Every time we do a podcast, I feel vulnerable.
Yeah.
In a way, it's sort of an exercise in vulnerability. But
I think vulnerability, like an aspect of it, is authenticity, and just being like not putting on airs or acting a certain way. And I don't think that that's the complete bit of vulnerability. I think there's some aspects of vulnerability that are extremely difficult for me, or certain people it's very difficult to be vulnerable with. Whereas other people, it could be a piece of cake to be vulnerable. I felt vulnerable this morning working out with you. Did you feel vulnerable?
I mean, a little bit. Like, even when you came down and you were just kind of like, oh, and then I was like, oh, I thought I missed you. I remember I told you, I was like, oh, I thought you came earlier. And so, yeah, definitely in the beginning, it was a little where we had to work out together. And
well, because I was like, is she looking at my form? I probably have bad form. I'm planking. Is my butt up?
I was trying to watch my breathing. I didn't want to be like, trying to breathe and work out, and then
because I usually work out alone, and I don't pay attention to like what I sound like or look like, or
The point is we were there. We were exercising our body.
And I wasn't judging you. I was thinking if you were judging me.
You
were probably not judging me, but thinking if I was judging you.
It was exactly that. So we should have been open about that. And
we should have.
And now we are.
Yeah.
So it's good.
We could have been extra vulnerable.
Live on YouTube.
You know what? That's my point, is like the whole thing about vulnerability is as soon as you expose it, you're free. Had one of us had I said this morning, Bree, this is awesome. I'm actually feeling really self-conscious right now working out in front of you. I really want to breathe hard, but I'm trying to keep it in because I'm trying to be cool. And
let's just both be free and breathe hard.
We could have both been dragons just like working out. I mean, could have been a thing.
Right. And had we exposed it, we would have been free.
Yeah.
But we sat there for 30 minutes just like, keeping it cool. So exposure gives you, it's like It's like you want to expose the elephant in the room or the elephant in you. That's
I liked dragon in me.
yeah. But when you expose it and just let everybody know, hey, this is what I'm feeling. This is take it or leave it. It makes you free.
Yeah, it's so interesting because it's like that thing that everybody, like, you dread it and it's way more scary than, like, the idea of it is so much scarier than actually exposing it. Like, once you expose it, then it's like everybody's relieved because they're probably thinking about, whether or not you're judging them like you guys were this morning.
Well, and that's
so
why
like
it's so
freedom.
difficult with art, because you're being so vulnerable and you're putting something that you're really passionate about, and then you're scared because you don't want to, like, maybe post it, or you're like worried about what other people are going to say and how they're going to react to it. So that's just...
And I think a lot of artists, I definitely remember going through this. I think a lot of artists feel vulnerable in possibly coming across too arrogant or narcissistic, like, oh, who am I to think anybody even wants to look at my art? I'm being so narcissistic just putting a painting up for everyone to see. It's like, oh, everybody look at me. And I mean, I don't have that thought at all anymore, but in the past, I remember feeling really, like, worried about, are people going to think I'm so arrogant that I want to show off my art? I'm a big show off, and people are afraid of being a show off. And so I think it's vulnerable for anybody in any craft and anything that you're good at or you're excelling at or you're putting your passion into, like, hey, I just made this song. Come check out my song. I want to show you my song. You have to play it cool and be like, so yeah, what'd you do today? You want to hear what I did today? Okay, and you kind of like work it in there. I did this song. You want to see my song? Yeah, it's not that good. I mean, I'm still working on it. It's a work in progress. And you pat it with
last night.
Yeah, I was just thinking that right now.
Oh, was that you last night?
Because I just finished a song recently, and I just showed it to Bree in the car last night, and we were
were
like,
you like, it's a work in progress?
Okay, well, I started to like premise the song and be like, well, it's a little bit different than my other stuff. I tried to be a little bit extra experimental this time. It's like sort of cinematic. Well, I'll just let you
Which is sad
decide
because
your own.
Then we're like, almost like, we're talking down about ourselves. We get into our head, and then that's hard to get out of.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but the song was really great, actually. I'm excited to see because you're going to put it on Spotify. And,
yeah.
And
it takes like 3 weeks I just have to figure out the cover art, but I think
I don't know where you're going to find cover art.
We don't have any art here.
I think I'm going to do the flower painting, but I just have to finish that painting now. So, and then that will be the cover art. But yeah, anyways, what were we talking about before that?
Well, just, I think, sharing your work, showing your work.
Yeah.
You are on both sides of the vulnerability issue. It's like, you don't want to come out, like, wow, look at me. And that feels like, arrogant,
Yeah.
So then you pat it with all kinds of false humility so that you're not perceived that way. Right. But then you're afraid people are going to judge you for the very words that you just patted you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you don't want people to think your art's bad or your song, is, like, you wouldn't like it if Bree went, so is this song finished? Or like, right? But you're like, oh, it's a work in progress. It's not quite finished. But if she goes, well, is it finished? Now you're offended. So it's like, do you know what I mean?
Well, yeah. I definitely used to be more offended. Now I would be like, well, I'm at this point where I'm just done with the songs.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But you know what I mean? Like,
totally.
We put ourselves down. We judge ourselves quickly to stop the other,
And we're like almost preemptively defensive.
Yeah.
It's like you put up walls so that, nobody has to, to protect yourself, really.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and I think a lot of artists do that, especially the more inexperienced you are at showing your work, and the more that's new, the more experiences you have with that, I think then you become more authentic, honestly. False humility is unauthentic. And it's the flip side of pride, really.
So, sorry, you go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think that that's actually something that helped, like live painting, because I've been doing that a lot recently and just trying to get out there. I was thinking about what you were saying, and in my studio I have like 5 pieces that aren't finished, and maybe I'm just super scared to finish them, to like then have to post them for everyone to see, because if they're finished, then I have to show everyone. So I get them really, really close, and then I'm like, oh, but I don't know if I'm really done with it yet, and I might still do something to it, and so I don't say they're finished. And that's something with live painting. I was able, like, I have this time, I have to finish, I have to be real and in the moment and just finish this painting, and or move on to another one like after that one's done, because it's crazy the amount that you can get done if you're just out there live painting, and then people walk by and they're like telling, because no one really, like, who's gonna walk up to you while you're live painting and say, oh, that's horrible? That's never, it hasn't happened to me. I mean, if it happens to you, I'm really sorry. I'll go find them. But it hasn't happened. Like, most of the time they walk by and you can hear them while you're painting, and they're like, ooh, or like little kids will come up and be like, look at the colors, or so I think that that's really something that was super awesome about live painting, and I just came full circle on that right now, thinking about it.
Yeah, it's so cool. It's like when you have that pressure of like being live, it's almost like you have to be on 100% of the time, almost, or at least you feel like you have to. Like if you're a performer, sort of. And I think every artist has a performer inside of them. So that's super cool. I wanted to sort of circle back, though, to what you said in the very beginning of the podcast about the root word of vulnerable and like wounds, and how it came, all sort of vulnerability stems from like a wound or something like that. So what do you guys think? Like, I don't know. I was just thinking about like, why are we so protective, or is a natural instinct to be protective about art? And sort of, I guess the thread that I'm feeling is something between like wounds and like the creative process, and like, you put your emotions into wounds, or into your art, and like sometimes it's like, these traumatic emotions and stuff. So like, how, I guess the question that I'm trying to get at is like, how do you go about being, gosh, I'm sort of getting lost in my question now.
You're being vulnerable. You're scared to let it out. Just
I'm thinking about a lot of different things right now at once, trying to multitask.
Are you trying to say like, almost like your superpower, like how
exactly
like you
thank you,
it requires vulnerability to be willing to connect with past previous wounds, to sort of be able to kind of flip that and realize that the flip side of that is your strength and where your power is, and what's going to actually bring transformation to other people and really serve other people and give your art power. But in order to get there, you kind of have to be aware. You can't just sweep everything under the rug, not face it, not deal with it. You have to open yourself up to face, first of all, your sometimes most embarrassing things about yourself, difficult things you ever went through, failures of the past, all of those things, all of the icky, yucky stuff from the past. You have to be willing to look at it, deal with it, and then, even if you're painting the other side of it, they're still related. And then you have this worry or this fear that, well, people will find out. People will see that. People will see through me. I'll be seen.
Yeah.
And so that is like, that's why I always say artists are some of the most courageous people in the world, because you even if you think you're painting a landscape that has nothing deep about it going on other than, a pretty place, how you just lay down your brushstrokes, how far you're willing to go, risking things for contrast, or that brushstroke that's supposed to emulate this certain thing, and
With
then
the subject matter.
Well, and then embedded in the subject matter, there is a story. There is a if it's a landscape, it's in the trees, it's in the path, there's so much of you in it, you can't help it, and you are being seen, and you're showing a facet of you or a dimension of you that sometimes you don't even see, and so it's extra vulnerable because you're unaware. You're putting it out there for all the world to see, and you haven't even seen it yet. Haven't you guys done that where you've painted a painting and you see it on the canvas and you don't even realize what you just painted, but you painted this part of you that you haven't looked at yet?
Yeah, I guess definitely. I think that happened when I painted the Kanye painting, and I was like, you sort of told me about it and like the Dominion, how it goes with my superpower, and then I titled it Dominion, and then it was just like that was like that time in class when just started when we all broke down and cried. But I mean, I started it, so that was very intense for sure.
That was the most vulnerable I've seen you for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, that happened in the mastery program. Like, when it happened, I was just thinking multiple times I've had where, because the more you paint, the more breakthroughs and this overcoming these vulnerabilities like happens. But that first one that it's like close to me, and I named her Victorious. And I really I didn't think I was painting a self-portrait, but like now looking at it all the time, I'm just like, that is me. Like, I just painted myself, and to think about like what I was doing in the mastery program and then finishing and what I was going to be thinking about my future, and it was amazing. And then titling it Victorious now, thinking about that I did have like victory over that, and so it's super cool.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that before.
Do you feel like writing, like at least you're like finishing your book, right? Well, not finishing, it's already finished, but like fine-tuning the second edition of it, or third edition or whatever. Do you feel like when you're writing, it's sort of like the same like vulnerability or like difficulty of vulnerability?
No. Because not for me, not compared to painting.
Good. I mean,
no, because painting is I think because writing is so hooked into words, and there's a vulnerability to writing for sure that I feel. But as far as what gets written, there's so much you can control. You can control who sees it. You can control. It's not so obvious. Like if you do a painting, unless you hide your painting and you live alone.
I feel the exact opposite.
Really?
Like, yeah. I'm sorry. You keep going.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like my writing is on my computer, and unless I show it to somebody, nobody's going to see it.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
She's typing.
But I can't hide. If I make a bad painting live on Art Club while you're filming me, it's like it's there.
Yeah, I get that when it's like live, but I just mean like, well, for me personally, like when I'm writing, I guess it's more of like writing about my dirty past, Oh,
well, yeah, but okay, that brings a good point. Because, so in my book, there's a lot of vulnerable moments in there. I mean, there's a lot of dark things about myself that from my past that are in there. But I feel like I've so overcome those things, they almost feel like somebody else. So I don't feel any shame associated with them. I don't feel like I have to hide anything, or when we were going through difficult times, okay, I'll be vulnerable right now. We were, in 2008, we started losing everything, and it was a really difficult time. And we had structured our business really stupidly, and so all our eggs were in one basket, and we were relying on one dealer alone to get our artwork out there. And so when the crash happened, we were not in any kind of position to withstand what was going on in the art world, and we were totally hooked into the traditional system with one dealer. And so we ended up losing our house. We lost everything, and it took us it took us almost 2 years to recover and restructure our business and develop relationships with different galleries, and spread ourselves out a little bit to recover. And in those 2 years, we had to at one point get on food stamps.
Yeah.
And for me, and my culture of how I was raised and where I came from, that was like the bottom of the barrel. That was like the worst thing you could ever do. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that was the ultimate failure. And at the time, I was so embarrassed by it, and so it was such a point of shame and failure and vulnerability that I couldn't tell anyone. It was like a dirty secret to be on food stamps, or like nobody could know.
Well, and it wasn't like before or now with the like swipe the card. It was like little like tabs, right?
No, it wasn't that long ago.
I'm just saying. I mean,
it was like stamps. Like you got like.
No, we had the card. Said. No, we had the card. This was in 2009 or something. It was like, what do you think? I was like back in the 50s. How old do you think I am? Come on now.
Well, you're so successful
We're like
now.
sitting there with our little stamp pad, peeling out stamps, licking them, sticking them on some card and giving it to somebody.
How many cartons of eggs can I get with this?
It wasn't that long ago. I mean, I was alive and I'm younger, and I saw people do that at the store, and I wanted to know. Yes, they were like little. You had to tear them off.
Okay, no, we had
Really?
it was a debit card.
I saw people, and I had to ask my mom. I was like, Mom, what is that?
That's probably why it's called food stamps. There we go. History lesson for me.
Oh my God, you didn't know that? That's funny.
I had no clue.
Wow, what a revelation. Okay, so
I honestly always wondered why it was called food stamps. So
yeah. Okay, so anyway, back to Ellie's story of food stamps. So anyway, at the time, it was really, it literally was like this giant, horrible billboard that I felt was like over my head everywhere I went.
I was just doing a fun transition. I'm sorry.
That basically said, big fat failure. She can't sell her art. Everybody was right about her. She should have listened to her dad. She's a starving artist. She's starving. She had to get food stamps. She can't feed her children. It was just like the ultimate shame, and for me.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm not saying I'm definitely not saying if somebody's on food stamps, they should feel it. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
For me and my pride, it was all about pride. I was so prideful at the time that.
In the culture you were raised in, too.
In the culture I was raised in.
Yeah.
That is what I was dealing with. And I couldn't be vulnerable. I couldn't expose it. Mm-hmm. And it took time and me, really God working in me to work on my pride and kill it before I could get to a place where I could admit it or share. And then it probably took a couple years, but after that, then, I would in a few speaking things or whatever to encourage others. I mean, I would tell my story. And as I told my story, as I exposed it, as it got out there and I said it, and different, maybe it started out with like 3 to 5 people, and then it was 50 people, and then it was a microphone, a stage, and a couple hundred people. Mm-hmm. Every time I told the story, it got in that exposure, I became free from it, and the shame went away. And today, there's probably only a tiny grain of it left. Yeah. And so as you share your story, Jake, it may feel. Because you haven't said it so much and you haven't shared it publicly that much, the exposure will bring you freedom from the shame of it. And it will begin to feel like it happened to somebody else,
Well, yeah, it already feels like it was somebody else, like a completely different person. But I think, it's just like sort of proximity to it because it was still so
proximity.
recent.
That's right.
It's like 3 years ago that I was like there
exactly.
in that. So.
And this is, now going on 14 years ago for me. Mm-hmm. So it's like it is all about proximity. It takes time to get over these things.
Yeah.
That's why I always say artists are either overcoming something, in the process of need to overcome something, in the process of overcome something, or they have overcome it. And you've overcome it, and it's now like a big part of your superpower is if you don't feel that shame anymore, and you don't feel that, it hardly feels vulnerable to expose it. It's easy to expose. You can just say it.
So just by exposing more and more, the less shame you'll feel.
Yeah.
And then over time, the easier it'll be to share your art.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
Well, and I think you help others too. I've had where, I had decided to say something that was vulnerable, something that I was feeling, and then they later told me, that's crazy because the same thing happened to me or something similar.
Yeah.
And they were like, I would never have said that and I would never have told anybody. But now they can trust me, and we bonded and had this connection where we can then be stronger together even because we knew that we both had that. Because I think that's a big part too, is you think, oh, well, clearly they don't have the same problems as me, or you think that maybe you don't go through those same struggles. And so just speaking into that and just being that vulnerable allowed for deeper connections too.
Well, and if you think about it, you guys, this is just real. I just got this just now, but if you think about this, okay, artists, we all believe we know that artists are, sort of like the kings of culture. They're the ones that drive culture forward. They have their pulse on that, right? Mm-hmm. And their thumbs are on that. Well, I've always kind of wondered why. I mean, yeah, you're in your right brain and you can see, you have vision, you can bring the far things near. All that's true. But I think a big part of it is vulnerability, because if an artist is really exposed and goes through that process of over and over again, exposing themselves, sharing their heart, going deep, putting these things on a canvas, dealing with these things all the time, what we're doing is we're really connecting and uniting humanity on a lot of levels. Because that doctor, lawyer, engineer, dentist, that looks at your art, that goes to their professional job every day, isn't probably dealing with these things. It's not a part of their daily life. Whereas for an artist, it's your profession. Right?
Yeah.
And like Schumann, the profession of an artist is shine light on a man's heart. So that's our profession. And as your profession, vulnerability is our profession. So if you are daily dealing with these things, what you do is you allow permission, just like what you just shared, Bree. You give permission to that professional. You give permission to that dad, to that mom, to that whoever that is that's looking at that artwork to deal with some of those issues. And it's like a portal or a door or a window into that place of overcoming or that place of healing, where now they are participating in something very deep and human that they probably normally wouldn't have dealt with. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so that, I think, is why artists are so courageous and do lead culture, because we are bringing other humans sort of back to what it's like to be a true, real human. Mm-hmm. Right? And not a big show or a facade or a pretentious something. You know what I mean? Not to say everybody that's an engineer is pretentious. I'm not saying that, right? Mm-hmm. At all. But I'm just saying, if you're not in a habit, if you're not shown, if you're not, movies do the same thing. Think about it. You go to a movie. We all do it. We experience a movie and it makes us cry, right? Or it makes us feel something. And so the arts do that to others. And it's like our service to others. Let me make you feel something. Let me get you in touch with feelings again. And that's what songs do. That's what movies do.
Yeah, I was just thinking, it's so interesting. I feel like all the different aspects or, facets of art have each their own kind of mandate in a way. Like visual art is showing the feelings, right? And music is sort of expressing the feelings in an intangible way, like an intangible quality. It's almost like download of the feelings. And then writing is almost like like the thoughts behind the feelings, or the thoughts behind, like the thoughts that are underneath that nobody else can ever see, you know?
And
But you
movies
can
almost
show
synthesize all of it.
Yeah, movies.
Because you got the
exactly.
music, you got the script, you have the.
That's why they're so powerful.
Yeah,
really.
they're very
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Very
really can
influential.
influence and affect people.
Yeah, that's why there's such big budgets going into Hollywood films.
Yeah. I just love that like art, well, music too, they don't have like a language barrier. So it's just super amazing that you can reach. And that's with when I remember someone had cried about one of my paintings that they saw. And it just brought them to tears, because whatever it was that they were feeling, that vulnerability, that wound that they had, obviously connected with, and whether they were the same wound, it might have been something different, but then it brought her, she didn't have words, she just had tears, and she was just so emotional about the piece. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's super cool. I think too, paintings are, I'm not going to ever sit here and say one art is better than the other or anything like that. I agree with you, Jake. It's like there's different facets and different dimensions to it, and it all works together.
Exactly.
Yeah, it does.
And we know in the future it's going to work together more. Right now things are fragmented, but the trend is things are becoming synthesized and synergized. Synthesized is one thing, but synergized is a whole nother. So anyway, we know that's coming, but what in the heck was I saying? It sounded...
You were basically, you were being preemptively,
art. Yeah, I was preempting, yes. I was being unvulnerable.
Preemptively defensive about what the statement she was about to say, guys.
That's exactly what I was doing. And I couldn't even remember what it was. It was that big. Okay.
Must be a pretty vulgar statement.
No, I was going to say that the arts, because what I was thinking is, when I say this, people might think that I'm trying to like elevate paintings because I'm a painter, so therefore I must be narcissistic, right? So that's where the defensive comes back to that, right? So, but anyway, I think that one interesting thing about visual art, paintings, is it bypasses.
The intellect.
The intellect. Music, I think, does that too, but it goes right to your
especially
gut.
instrumental music.
Yeah, especially instrumental music, because there's no words. There's no words. It's just pictures, and then even more is abstract art. I think abstract art, because it definitely bypasses all of that because there's no image. Yeah, and
like certain instruments. Sorry to interrupt, but certain instruments have like a certain emotional quality to them naturally, like violins,
right?
Or like what is that? The Greek
drums.
instrument? Yeah, drums. Of course. Like some tribal drums, snares.
I like
all of them
percussion.
have like different. All of them have different like innate emotional qualities to them.
It's true. Yeah. I mean, if I listen to drums, not a drum set drums, but like percussion drums. Sometimes I like to listen to solo percussion Greek drums, and it transports me. It's like warfare, and
in the best kind of way.
Well, just because you're a warrior.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think that's why.
It's like fighting what you believe in.
To me,
really,
drums
that's what
equals freedom. It equals the path to freedom. It's the process of breaking everything down. When I hear drums, it's like things are dying, things are breaking. We're at war. We're killing it, and on the other side is freedom. And so, I'm saying all that in a spiritual context, not real war, but it is real war. And if there is spiritual warfare, then there isn't physical warfare. So, we all got to listen to more drums.
Anyways, I interrupted you, and you were talking about how abstract kind of bypasses the intellect, right?
Yeah. Well, that was it. That was the end of the statement.
Well, because you were starting to say because, but then I
think because there's no imagery, and imagery often carries baggage. Yeah. And we make associations through that imagery based on our experiences or canned symbolism. And traditional symbolism with those images, and abstracts don't. You just get the purity of that artist's, heart or what's going on in the paint or the execution of the brush
the energy that the
energy
artist had at that moment.
Yeah. So it's kind of like this very pure, raw form of being, emotionally, spiritually impressed.
Yeah. Okay, I have one more question. It's 3:50, so
and then are we doing a Q&A
yeah, that's
today?
what I was.
Okay.
Before the question, though, I was going to let everybody know we are doing another Q&A, and so if you have any questions or you've had any questions throughout this whole podcast, head over to YouTube. If you're on Instagram, that's the easiest way for me to see it. Otherwise, our customer service guy Dino Bombino will be telling us some questions from Instagram. But if you can, head over onto YouTube. But anyway,
if Dino was allowed to be vulnerable right now, he would say he doesn't like to be called Bambino. But
I actually love his full name,
Constantino. Yeah. Anyways, so yeah, leave your questions in the chat, and we will get to that after this last question that I asked them. Okay, so the last question is basically, we've talked a lot about this sort of arrogance that artists feel, or might feel
fear
of feeling. But it's not bad to love your art.
Right.
It's good.
And that's not arrogant.
You should. Yeah. So how would you draw the line between arrogance and self-love? Mm-hmm. Like where does it start to cross over into arrogance?
I think it's like an interpretation of culture. Like we watch movies, we're told in school, everybody says, don't brag, and you're told, don't brag.
Don't be cocky.
Don't be cocky.
Yeah.
And as soon as you go, every little boy's like, Dad, I threw the ball really good. And it'd be like, son, don't be cocky. It's like, you know what I mean?
Pride comes before the fall, son.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I was told.
I'm having PTSD. No.
Yeah. And so it's ingrained in us from a child, and then every little girl comes out in her dress and twirls around and says, look at me, aren't I beautiful? Mm-hmm. And that's innocence. That's purity. That's true vulnerability. And then every mother or older sister is like, sit down. Don't do that. That's prideful. That's arrogant. Mm-hmm. Who do you think you are? And so we're taught very young not to ever do that, because it might make somebody else feel bad.
Yeah.
And the truth is, we all love it. I love being around people who, in an innocence and a purity, can say, watch me, look at this. Mm-hmm. Isn't this sublime? Isn't this fantastic? Isn't this beautiful? Do you love how that, and can also recognize it in you,
Yeah.
And so it's just a pure, innocent recognition of excellence, beauty, something extraordinary, something, lovely, truthful, any of those sort of identifiers, like, that's good, that's great, I love that. And then I think getting rid of the fact that, kind of losing the idea that if I do something amazing, I did it. It goes back to that muse thing, right? Like the muse is outside of me. Right. So I'm not responsible for my good art or my bad art. I mean, I'm a little bit responsible because I got to work at it, right?
And you have to show up and do the work.
I got to show up and do the work, but it's like when I hit it and it's fantastic, I'm just like the audience going, wow, that came out really good.
I don't even know how I did that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it wasn't me. I mean, it was kind of me, but it was. I mean, it's not that good that God did it alone, right? Let's face it. If God painted my paintings, they'd be a lot better.
Yeah.
But
he used your experiences.
Yeah.
And your
we're a conduit. We're a
basically.
Conduit. So it's perfectly okay to go man, I'm really proud of that. That came out great. I love looking at that. Mm-hmm. I did a good job here. And I don't think it's arrogant, and I don't think it puts people off. I love hearing when other people, or if you compliment them, like, Bree, man, that last painting you did is fantastic. You go, wow, thank you.
Yeah, and not not sit there and shut it down and say,
Yeah.
oh, well, no,
Well,
maybe.
I don't know.
It wasn't that, I didn't really like it. No, yeah.
Yeah.
Just accepting that. And that's where and it wasn't really answering your question, but I felt like the biggest thing was having that self-love, vulnerability, like being able to accept yourself and love yourself is like, that's what
Attractive.
it feels like. Yeah. And like when you compliment someone and they, try to deny that and, not accept it, it's like you're showing almost like that part is like you're not loving yourself enough. And that's vulnerable to me, man. I might cry on here. No, just because I remember doing that in class. I remember like, no, it's not that good. And just being,
it's an area of growth to overcome that for sure. And it's that false humility. Another thing is, to answer your question, is some people in insecurity and defensiveness, and they're just completely insecure, try to overcompensate by bragging and pushing.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
yeah, and that is gross and annoying. And it's like something you feel, because the words could be the same.
So
I could be insecure and arrogant, and Bree could be genuine and innocent. And we both could walk up to our paintings, and me, the arrogant one, could go,
man, that looks so
Bree,
good.
check out my painting. It's really good, huh? And she would be like, ew, right? That's just gross. I don't want to be around her. And then Bree could go up to her painting and go, man, check out my painting. It came out pretty good. Right? And I would be like, it did. Yeah, good job. I'm celebrating with you. And so one came from innocence and a pure heart and like genuineness and authenticity and vulnerability. And the other came from trying to cover up something.
And fear,
And I feel inferior and bad, and I'm not measuring up, so I'm going to hide it by trying to convince everybody I'm so great. And it doesn't even matter what the painting looks like.
Exactly.
The painting could be terrible or great. Either way, it doesn't matter. It's the spirit it's coming from.
Exactly, like where it's coming from. And that's where I think that transitions, that arrogance, and you'll see it. I mean, everybody's had bullies. And I think that's where it comes from. Like, they start out with that insecurity about themselves, and then their arrogance, and then instead of it just being about them, then later, if they don't fully accept that and move on and grow from and strengthen in themselves, then it could have reversed and been like, oh, well, yeah, Bree, yours isn't that good, but I mean, come check out this one or something.
And there's competitiveness with it.
Exactly.
There's, I'm going to diminish others to elevate myself. Those types of things.
Yeah, I think when you diminish others, that's a huge telltale sign. That's like definitely.
Well,
definite insecurity.
One thing I'm really it just always fills my heart and to overflow is looking at our community pages. And like the coaching page, it's like there's so many students that write these amazing testimonials, these amazing, they'll put their artwork out there, and they'll even say like, you guys, I don't normally post my work, and I've been watching on here, and I got up the nerve today to post my work. And then you'll see 35, 40 comments, and they're like, you did fantastic. This is awesome. Wow, great color. Oh, I'm so proud of you. You posted your work. And the students, the coaches, everybody is just encouraging them, and then it inspires other people to do it, and I've even seen people go, man, I was nervous to post my stuff, but I saw so-and-so do it. And so I'm putting myself out there. Now I'm going to do it. And then you see those same people start encouraging and other people. And it's like this fantastic, beautiful family or team where everybody's encouraging each other, and they don't feel that competitive. They don't feel like they gotta,
compensate.
Yeah. And
it's a culture, really. That's what it is. It's like it's got its own culture.
It's contagious, I think, and it's almost like to be arrogant in those groups, you would stick out like a sore thumb so bad that I think anybody like everybody, I don't know, nobody does it. Nobody does it. It just doesn't belong there. So it's really cool. I love our students. I love, just how just such beautiful people that come through our school.
Like Bree.
Like Bree.
And you. But yes.
That's true. Sometimes I forget I was a student. Not that it's just because I'm on like the other side of things with art club now. So it's like, oh wow, yeah. Like I was in the mastery program too.
Yeah. Well, you did the accelerated one, so it was shorter. So if you were in it for a year, you might not.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
It was like, it's almost like a whirlwind, 'cause
Right.
it all happened so fast. It was like 40 hours a week, super intense,
Well, and it's like
and I was
safe
falling
spot.
in love at the same time, and proposed.
You had so much stuff going on.
And then got married a couple months later. And wait, was that? Yep, that was when it was. Jeez. Okay, well, let's get to the comments. Well, before that, just on the topic of the Milan Art Institute community page, if you're not a part of the Facebook community page, just look up Milan Art Institute community on artist community. I'm sorry. So Milan Art Institute artist community on Facebook. If you're not a part of it, go join it now. And just connect with all these other artists there that have this culture that we're talking about.
Yeah.
So with that, let's look at some of the questions. It's hard to find this. So Stephanie Ribeiro says, does anybody meditate? And if so, which meditation?
I don't. I'm not 100% sure what she means by like formal meditation. I would say I don't.
Yeah.
As far as like following a
guided meditation.
A guided meditation. I'm somewhat like, I don't know, what's the word? I'm leery of like all
letting
religion.
someone in on your spiritual,
Yeah, I don't know.
guidance.
Just like anything canned and anything like rote, I don't know. Like I just feel like through relationship with God, I connect. So if that's what she means, absolutely, all the time. And but I don't follow like anything in particular. Like for me, that wouldn't work. I don't think.
Yeah, for me, I think it's hard for me to like just sit still and be like, I don't think I could. I don't know. I've never tried.
Yeah, you were talking about it the other day, how you
the
like
6 minute. Yeah, it was a little, try to sit there and just not think, not hear, listen to anything for 6 minutes, like set your little alarm. And yeah, that was super difficult, just 6 minutes. And I don't know, I've never tried meditation, but I think, just the connection, wanted the same thing with Ellie.
Yeah, I mean, what I like to do, which I think could be like meditation, I don't know, what I like to do is just like get into a space that's super quiet by myself. Usually I have something around me to write on, or my computer, and I'll just connect with God and maybe visualize like, God or like heaven, or you know what I mean, and just go there. And then usually through my imagination, I mean that's probably how it is with you guys too, through my imagination, like what I see in my mind, or my imagination. I don't know what it is it your mind? Probably not, but
see it in your spirit.
yeah, like whatever I'm seeing there in that screen that's in front of you, right? I'll begin to kind of interact with it. Like if I see a field with a tree at the end of it, I'll walk to the tree, and then if I feel like climbing the tree, I'll climb the tree and see what's in it. And then cool things will begin to happen. Like there'll be stuff in the tree you can mess with, pick up,
Very interesting. Yeah. I haven't.
But I feel like when I do that, God's leaving little breadcrumbs for me to find.
Like dreams.
Dreams.
Interesting. Personally, I don't. I mean, well, I guess every day I meditate, but for me, it's more of just like every morning for 5 minutes. I have like a routine every day. I won't go through the exact details, but at a certain point, like 30 to 45 minutes after I wake up every day, I sit on the couch and I just close my eyes, and basically it's like prayer, but I time myself so that it's like the same amount of time every day, just because like I'm trying to have like structure, you know. And it's like 5 minutes of just gratitude, and so like I just think about everything that I'm grateful for, and it like really energizes me. I got it from Tony Robbins. He said to do 3 minutes, but I found that was like too short for me, so I started doing 5 minutes, and it's just like I feel so good after, you know?
Yeah.
So I might have to start doing that.
I highly recommend it. I started doing it like 3 weeks ago or so. And it makes me feel really good every time I do it. So,
and you'll attract blessing to you all throughout the day, because you've already, like, what you honor, you attract.
Yeah, it's like almost like a form of power statement too, really, because when I'm grateful, I'm like, you know, I'm so grateful for this, and you know what would make me even more grateful? I mean, that's just like...
So Jake like, goes off on a tangent, and then it's fine.
I'm like, yeah, that's so awesome. Like, I'm so grateful. Whoa, that would be so cool. like, you know, if I, you know, did this, or if this happened, or, you know, so that's sort of like my meditation, I guess, Stephanie. I also do just like at times if I get overwhelmed, like if I feel like there's so many things going on or I'm behind in something, I'll just take like 10 minutes and I'll close my eyes. And I have this app called Muse, and it's not like a guided meditation or anything. I think you know about this. This is one of those like gimmicks that I bought. Oh, well, I bought it a while ago. And what it does is it actually can sense your brain waves. I'm just trying to stay up with the future, you know, but so it like
it's your meditation helmet.
Well, it's just like a little headband, and then there's like 5 different sensors, like here, and then behind your ears, and it can actually through the salt on your skin, or no, not the salt, but the moisture on your skin, it can detect your brain waves. And so it like, you know, the different brain waves, like you have like alpha brain waves, gamma, beta, delta, theta, and I think that's it. I don't know, maybe there's one more, but they have figured out that there are like when you're concentrated, you know, there's certain brain waves that your brain is exhibiting more. And so it's so cool. It's called Muse. They basically, whenever you're distracted, it will like all these birds the birds chirp when you're not distracted and you're focused and your like brain is clear. And then when you start to get distracted, there's like this heavy rainfall that starts to come in. It like it starts as a trickle, and then it'll get like louder and louder, and then it's like just this. You're in this. Then you got a storm. Yeah, you're in a storm, and like you have to like calm your mind down and like clear the storm, and then you get these like birds. So it's super cool. It's like you do it for 10 minutes.
Wow, that's interesting.
And yeah,
I want to try that. Can I try your helmet?
Can try. Yeah, totally.
Oh, okay.
It's just you just have
it's
an
not
app.
acclimated to your brain.
We're gonna all have to go try it right now.
It's like
No, actually, so it's like every time that you sit down to try it, you know, your brain's in a different state, right?
Right.
So like, basically before you start the meditation every time, it's like, Muse is sensing your brain waves now. Close your eyes and sit in a relaxed position.
Bree, you should try it.
I'll try it.
It's going to be like, I don't know.
After this, I'll bring it out and I'll show you guys.
We're going to do it,
it's super
after
cool.
the podcast.
But yeah, you have to wear headphones with it. Otherwise, you know, there's like all these different sounds.
Okay, now you probably have a bunch of questions about your helmet.
Stephanie said, Jake, heard of that. Haven't tried it. That is so cool. She said, I love Tony's fire breath. Yeah, fire breath is like breathing out of the nose really intensely. It's like, but it's like, yeah, it's like specific.
I think I fire nose in the mornings when I'm working out.
Yeah, I started to say we're going back to that dragon.
Okay, so I'm totally going to say this wrong. I'm super sorry. Your name is Amatula Tapia. 4 tries, it's a charm. She's wondering, when and how does one know what the true freedom of an artist is in her heart? And when do you exactly know that you have found your voice and thus attained freedom?
Well, I think kind of what we were saying before about like the proximity to the pain and overcoming the pain. So when you know you are free of your past wounds, right, you can talk about them without feeling, shame or that like nervousness or vulnerability that comes with it. And you found that your story and you talking about it with others empowers others. And I would say that's a real true place of freedom and the feeling of freedom. And I think, when you get to a place where you can, paint your art and put it out there, show your process, reveal your process. Like we're going to start it out that way with this podcast by revealing our process, and the equipment and, different parts, sort of the guts of what we're doing here. So when you can kind of show your process as you're working, I think that's evidence of freedom. And I think live painting is extremely freeing because you're showing your process live in front of an audience. That's very, and then
that's even more so.
Yeah. And then I think like finding your voice is a process, and I think that like artists spend their whole life unwrapping their voice. I feel like I'm still unwrapping my voice, but there is a start of it. And I think you kind of emulate or try this, try that, and you're not sure it's your voice. And then you sort of begin the journey where you find your voice, and then it begins. And as long as, and from that point down, you're evolving and you're discovering and you're unwrapping and you're in a continual place of discovering your voice, but everywhere on that path is a part of your voice.
Yeah.
Whereas maybe before you got on that path, you don't feel that, and it might feel bad or it might not feel free because you feel like you're having to measure up to some sort of standard that's out there instead of just being you in your art. And so that's my answer for that.
Yeah, I would think like your voice grows even.
Yeah,
like
for sure.
You always say that your taste and your skill, and you have this, resistance back and forth pull where, your taste might be higher, your skill. And I think with that, your voice just continues as you find out even more things about yourself. And I think so, I don't know if there's really a specific time that you would know, but I think you're just always learning. And yeah.
So yeah, I guess my answer to like when you would know, like as an artist, that you're in freedom, I think it's like it's evident in the feeling that you have while you're creating too, in the feeling just being completely free to share things. The more vulnerable, as we've talked about in this podcast, the more vulnerable you are, then the easier and more free it's going to become. So like you said, like you both said, it's like a process. It's just like you're never gonna arrive, and that's, you just have to fall in love with that and be comfortable to share, and then eventually, you'll have that freedom.
And another thing I would just want to address that we didn't talk about, it's like, it seems kind of obvious, but we just didn't talk about it, is I think vulnerability as an artist comes with practice and sort of baby steps of the smaller things that are easier. And if you feel kind of bottled up and not free as an artist, and you're scared to show your work, and you're afraid to really put on the canvas what you really want to put, and like there's a lot of sort of feeling of boxed up, right? You don't feel free in your art. Then look at other areas of your life. Are you free in your relationships, or how you deal with people, or your friendships, or your parents, or your spouse, or like look at outside of your art and see what are some smaller things in your life that you can work on. And maybe even journaling is a good place, and being vulnerable with yourself is a great place to start.
Oh yeah, definitely. Journaling is so good.
And just open up to yourself. Nobody's going to read it. Nobody's going to see it, but just put it on the page and just put it out there in words. What are you feeling? What do you want? What do you like? Put it out there. Get in the habit of journaling those feelings, and I think it'll begin to open you up and help you overcome some of the fear that goes along with not feeling vulnerable, and then just practice authenticity.
Yeah.
Practice labeling like what you feel and why you feel it, and
even with other people too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Especially with other people.
Especially with other people, and practice exposing. You know, if you have a socially awkward moment, and you say something that you feel like, why did I just say that? That was a dumb thing to say. Expose it.
Yeah.
And just say, gosh, I don't even know why I just said that. I must be nervous. You know, I didn't mean what I just said.
Yeah.
Like, you know, this is more what I meant. Like, instead of having the awkward moment where you said that weird thing and then just getting weirder because you're trying to cover up for the weird thing you had. You know what I mean? I mean, we've all probably experienced that, right? So, so just expose it, and it's okay to go, feel nervous around you. I don't know why. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and honestly, it like clears the air.
It clears the air.
And then that person automatically feels like they can trust you, and you can like trust yourself, really, you know, that you're being authentic.
Yeah. Like, I guess I just really want you to like me. So that's why I'm acting weird, you know?
Yeah.
Can you imagine if we all were that way?
Oh my gosh.
Oh, I'm super
It'd
weird.
be amazing.
Like, I'm just super weird. And I mean, I guess I need to be extra weird because I already thought I was weird. And now I'm thinking I need to just.
Well, you're pretty good at being direct. So yeah.
That's true.
I mean, if direct, you know, if being direct is weird, then yeah, but I mean, we're all weird a little bit, but
Embrace your weirdo.
yeah. Okay, so well, actually, before we move on from that, I just wanted to say one thing about journaling, because you brought it up, and I just read this journal entry that I had a long time ago, like 3 hours ago, or 3 hours ago, when we started the podcast. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
3 years ago, I read this journal entry, and it was so amazing just reading it and being able to like understand where I was. And so I guess what I wanted to say as a piece of advice is there's no like right or wrong when it comes to journaling.
Yeah.
Even if you just write down a few sentences, or even if you don't even write down sentences and it's just a few different words, regarding how you're feeling in the moment, that can be such a powerful exercise. Because like my journal entry was like a paragraph of like incomprehensible sentences basically to anybody else, but to myself, when I read it later on, years later even, it took me right back into that moment. And journaling can be with like art, it can be, I mean, you could even do voice memos too. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know who would want to go back and listen through to their own voice on a voice memo, but you could do that, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's different.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, well, with that, thank you guys so much for watching this podcast, and thank you so much, Bree, for being here. You really made this podcast, and it was just it was a great time.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure being vulnerable.
Yeah, and again, of course, Ellie, thank you too, always with the wisdom that you bring to the podcast. So, well, thank you guys for watching this. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. And if you like this podcast, give us a thumbs up, maybe share it with some of your friends or something. And, we'll see you. Well, actually, I just want to let you know, next week we will not be doing a podcast because Dalia Milan is getting married. So congratulations to Dalia. Woo. And we're going to be there in Miami. And so we won't be, we won't be able to do a podcast next week's Thursday. But you can count on us the following week doing a podcast. So, we'll be announcing that later on. So thank you guys so much for joining us in this podcast, and we hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day and be really vulnerable with yourselves and others. So now I got to end it here. That's what I'm doing now. Okay.